One moment.
Thank you, please.
And at that time,
next speaker, please.
You will be regretting for all the laws you have enacted
Next
in this
speaker,
house during your tenure.
Shri
Thank you very much.
Sujit Kumar.
Seeks to replace the Identification of Prisoners Act 1920, over 100 years old, and also it shall interact with the provisions of CRPC and also with the DNA Technology Regulation Bill 2019 whenever it becomes an act. Sir, the bill seeks to collect what it terms as measurement defined in clause 2(1)(b) from certain classes of persons mentioned in clause 3 and allows for processing, storage, dissemination and destruction of these measurements. And the stated aims and objectives are prevention of crime and better identification and investigation in criminal matters. Sir, who can dispute these aims and objectives? We do acknowledge that in our country we have serious internal security challenges from anti-India forces, and also the conviction rate in our country is amongst the lowest in the world. Sir, there is a cardinal principle of criminal justice system that what deters crime is not the quantum of punishment, but rather the certainty of punishment. So, sir, any legislation which empowers our law enforcement agencies and government to prevent crime and better the conviction rate is always welcome. Now, sir, what measurements can be collected under the bill, who may be compelled to provide the measurements, and who can compel it? These are all mentioned in the bill, and in the interest of time, because of paucity of time, I will not get into details. Rather, sir, I will limit myself to two brief points. One is regarding the constitutionality of the bill, which my previous erudite and learned speakers have already touched upon. And secondly, regarding the administrative and procedural matters in implementing this bill. Sir, first and foremost, there are certain ambiguity with regards to definition. Certain terms have been left undefined and unclarified. The bill does not provide an exact definition of measurement. The definition provided in clause 2(1)(b) is open to an expansive interpretation. Further, terms used like biological samples and the analysis of biological samples remain undefined. This is a deviation from section 53 of CRPC, which clearly defines samples on which examinations can be conducted. However, under this bill, it is not clear what kinds of measurements constitute biological samples. I am not even getting into Selvis, the famous judgment which Honorable Member Mahesh Jethmalani and Honorable Member P. Chidambaram went into. But, sir, I will definitely highlight clause 2(1)(c). Clause 2(1)(c) defines police officer, means the OIC of a police station or an officer not below the rank of head constable. Sir, with due respect to head constables of this country, sir, I think they are not adequately trained to handle such sensitive matters. So at least the police officer should be of the rank of sub-inspector. Sir, thirdly, in my humble view, many provisions of the bill are manifestly arbitrary. Sir, in Saira Bano versus Union of India, the test of arbitrariness was established as a ground for invalidating legislation, parliamentary legislation under Article 14. In that case, Justice Nariman observed that a legislation is manifestly arbitrary if the same, and I am quoting Justice Nariman, done by the legislature capriciously, irrationally, and or without adequate determining principle, then the law is excessive and disproportionate, unquote. So this test as a means of invalidating legislation has been acknowledged by the majority opinion in the Aadhaar judgment as well. Sir, I have 2-3 more minutes.
Please.
It is my argument that at several instances the bill does not disclose any rational principle and probably is arbitrary, which may face judicial scrutiny. Sir, I will give an example from the bill itself. Clause 6 fails to provide clear guidance to individuals as to when a refusal to allow the collection of measurements constitutes an offence. Sir, in Sija Singhal versus Union of India, section 66A. Sir, I have 6 minutes, sir.
आपका समय समाप्त हो गया.
Sir, 6 minutes, sir.
नहीं, please.
Sir, 2 more minutes, sir. Please, 2 more minutes. Sir, in Sriya Singhal versus Union of India, Section 66 of the IT Act 2000 was struck down for its arbitrariness and vagueness, with the court observing that 66A did not provide any manageable standard by which to book a person for an offense. It arbitrarily, excessively, and disproportionately restricted the freedom of speech. Sir, I fear the same is the case here, and the legislation may be open to unnecessary challenges in the court of law. Sir, I agree with my previous speakers regarding Section 3, which brackets convicts with people, activists like us who are in public life, who are often asked to give security for good behavior. So, sir, this is unfair. And, sir, right to be forgotten, as was articulated by Tichi Shivaji previously, as enshrined in the Puttaswamy judgment, also probably has not been taken into account in this bill. And the 3 tests, legality, need, and proportionality. So I think it meets the legality and need test, but the proportionality test may not be met. Sir, to conclude, give me 30 more seconds, sir. While I agree with the intention, probably the intention of the government is noble, and it's an important endeavor to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of investigation in our country. And also the Honorable HM, in his reply in Lok Sabha, mentioned that the government has brought this bill with the intention of preventing crime, protecting human rights of crores of Indian citizens, and enhancing our security. Concede, sir, I concede these intentions. But, sir, I think this bill will create great administrative burdens and may not deliver on the promised returns, while also infringing on the fundamental rights. So, sir, to conclude, while the bill has a legitimate aim of improving investigation, detection, and prevention of crime, it fails to meet various tests of constitutionality, like the test of proportionality, and also fails to satisfy administrative and procedural aspects of implementing the bill.
Next speaker,
so, sir, I request the government to send it to a select committee.
Please. Next speaker, Sri V. Vijay Sai Reddy.
Vice Chairman, sir.